Hello everybody, this is Sherry at djsundry.blogspot.com, and today I have a special project for you. It's special in a couple ways. First of all, it is the first post that I'm doing on the 3 Girl Jam blog as part of the 3 Girl Jam design team, and I'm really happy and thankful to be part of this team. So of course I will be using 3 Girl Jam ribbon. Now the pack of ribbon that I'm using is the Halloween pack. It has 2 different colors in it. It's Goblin Green and Witch's Brew, and I am not into Halloween. If you've been following my blog for a long time, you're aware of that, but I love this color. This is such a beautiful lavender purpley color. I just love it, and of course if it's purple I want to use it, so that's going to be our base, just the Witch's Brew. I'm not using the Goblin Green, and I will need more of that Witch's Brew in a little bit. I'm also going to be using some flowers that I got from Prima. Now these were part of a pack, like a cell pack that I picked up at a scrapbooking expo, and so these they may be seconds. They have some faded blue on the creamy texture, or the creamy color of the flowers of the roses, but I decided it didn't matter for this one, so I didn't do anything with it. I'm not inking it, I'm not spritzing it, I'm just leaving it just the way it is because I think it looks just fine. I'm also using these other flowers from Prima. Now this was a set that came with 24 flowers, and it was 8 each of 3 different colors or shades of purple in this pack, and I've really loved these. I kind of tend to hoard them, but now that I'm getting organized in my craft space and I'm finding things, I realize I've got to quit hoarding it. I've just got to use it, so I decided to pull these out. I'm also using this scrap pad, again something I found when I was organizing my my crafty space, and it's a pad that I had never even opened. I opened it today for this. Oh, it looks like I ripped the paper doing it, but this is a beautiful pad of papers. It's Purplecraft a long time ago had 5.5 by 8.5 inch little books that you could make mini albums out of. It was one of the earliest mini albums that I recall seeing, and that's how I started my little girl at that time. She's not a little girl anymore, but that was her first scrapbook, was one of these back in the day when I had my store. But this is a collection of greens and really soft muted greens, but then it's also got pinks in it, and then in the back we've got some lavender shades, and I'll show you what I did with that in a little bit. I have these doilies. This is a French doily from Alan Thistle, and then some Prima Bling, and this is the Say It in Crystals line that comes with this trim. It's not really ribbon, it's more kind of a lacy trim, but what I'm using is this lace with the crystals coming off of it, and I cut it, as I'll show you throughout. And then the stamp set that I'm using is this Tim Holtz, and this is Playful Journey, and I'm using this long phrase here, and I'll read that to you in a little bit. And then of course I'm using my 3 Girl Jam ribbon maker. So let's get started. I want to show you that this is for a swap over at Craft Happens, and the swap rules were that we were supposed to use, we could either use a standard A2 size envelope, or we could use a 6 by 6 inch envelope. And we had to use 1 metal embellishment, at least a charm or something like that, and then we had to use 3 other embellishments. Now I wasn't clear on if I needed to use 3 plus the charm or 3 including the charm, but I have plenty on here, as you're going to see. And the back had to be finished as well, so I went ahead and did that just to save a little bit of time. So I took my cream colored envelope that I picked up at the office supply store, and to start with I inked around the edge of both the front and the back in the tea dye distress ink. And then I pulled a piece of this paper from that paper pack from Provocraft that I showed you that has these little purple, I don't know if they're plums or what, with leaves. And I also inked around the edges of that, and this is where I put my stamp. And this says, "Time is a companion that goes with us on the journey. It reminds us to cherish each moment because it will never come again. What we leave behind is not as important as how we lived." So let me just walk you through how I did that. I took this solid piece of paper and I cut it at 4 1/8 inches tall by 5 1/2 inches wide, and I stamped my image with archival black because I wanted this really crisp, clean image. And then I laid my paper on the back of the envelope, and I very carefully opened it out, holding it in place, and I just drew a pencil mark right where the envelope would open. Now, for this particular swap, if the envelope was heavy, these are more for decorations. They're not really designed to be an envelope that you would actually give something in, although you definitely could if you were hand delivering the card, or if you put it in a box and wrapped it really well, but you couldn't send this envelope through the mail, and you'll see why by the time I'm done. But I still wanted, if somebody wanted to, I wanted them to be able to open up and use it, and my embellishments, though bulky, are not heavy. So I wanted to be able to open up the envelope. And so I then adhered the top piece, and then I very carefully closed it and adhered the bottom piece so that they would line up to look as if it was stamped after the envelope was folded. So that's how I did the back, and that's all I'm doing to the back. Now when you turn over to the front, this is where we're going to have some fun with it. I took another piece that coordinates. It's just the leaf, and it's got more green than the purple piece did, and that's going to be our base piece, and that's really our main piece of paper. I'm not putting a lot of paper layers in here, and you'll see why in just a minute. So now this is where I'm going to take my first piece of 3 Girl Jam ribbon, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to really kind of scrunch the edge of it, and I have these Tim Holtz, I believe they're called word strips or something like that. They're a relatively new product, and this is the first time I've used them. I purchased them a few weeks ago, and I really like them. But they're these little word bands, I think is actually what they're called, and you can thread ribbon through it. Now, what I've discovered is my 3 Girl Jam ribbon is just a little bit wider than I would like it to be, to not show up on the back of the tag, but that's really easy to fix, and I'll show you how in just a minute. I'm going to set my envelope aside. I'm going to decide about where I want the tag, and that's about where I want it. So I know I need a little bit of overhang here, and you could do a couple of things. You could just tie a knot and tie it off, or tie bows, but I want it to wrap around my card. So what I'm going to do is I have a couple of little glue dots here, and I'm going to take the first glue dot, and I'm going to just roll it between my fingers and put it between the layers of the ribbon, and kind of fold the ribbon back over the back of it so that it will lie flat underneath. And then I'm going to take a second glue dot, and it looks like I may almost need a third one. Maybe I'll put one right here. Again, do the same thing. And I'm really kind of surprised at how well the glue dots hold the ribbon. It really does a really good job. And then I'm going to take one more glue dot just to make sure that things are really well secured. And these are my Recollections glue dots, and I think that may be the very last one in that pack. Oh, there's a couple in there. So I'm going to take yet another one, again rolling it between my fingers, and then I'm going to put that on the metal there, and then adhere my ribbon there, and see, it'll stay fairly taut and nicely. Now I have the glue lines here, and I really want this to hold well going through the mail and then being sent to the swap partners. So I'm going to take another glue line, and I'm going to lay it over the back of the ribbon so that the charm and the ribbon won't slip up and down, and I may end up putting some under this ribbon as well. So we'll just take that off, and I'm going to just adhere that to where I want it, and I think it's going to go right about there, and I'm going to just put some pressure on it because I don't want it to go anywhere. And then I'm going to flip it over at the back, and I am just going to kind of spread out that beautiful ribbon from 3 Girl Jam. Just take a piece of Scotch tape, just simple Scotch tape, and make sure that my front is adhered. Oh, I'm glad I looked. I had it twisted. It won't matter a lot because you'll see what I'm doing with this, but I don't want it to be twisted. And I'm going to put another piece of tape right there. And I got that a little bit longer than I needed, and I don't want a lot of extra bulk under there. So now what I'm going to do is adhere this to my envelope front. And I am going to use a lot of ATG. I probably could use maybe some Tombow Mono. Obviously you could use Scotch Quick Dry. I don't want to use really Scotch Quick Dry because I don't want the liquid glue to show through the paper, but I want it to be really, really well adhered to this envelope. And so make sure that the top is facing up, and then we're just going to adhere that down. Just get that centered and adhere it down. I almost think you could just go like that. I just think it's so pretty. This particular word band says, reality has limits, imagination is boundless. So we'll just adhere that down. Now, this is what I want to show you. If you remember correctly on these doilies that I showed you, they were white. I actually distressed mine. I took the tea dye distress ink and I just used my sponge applicator and I distressed around it. And then I took my homemade Perfect Pearls mist, and that's just a clear water with just Perfect Pearls in it, so it just adds sparkle. It doesn't change the color. And then I also took my metallic homemade purple mist and lightly spritzed it, and then I used my heat tool to dry it really well. And what I want to do is I want to kind of put this over the edge, and I want to kind of play with it because there's some variation to the colors, and I want to see which I want to show, and I think I want more purple there. So just kind of keeping in mind what I want to show here, I again am going to use a lot of ATG. Now on these doilies, they are very, very delicate. Even though they have the extra strength of being sprayed, of course when they're wet they're really super delicate, but even though they've been sprayed, they're really, really delicate. So be careful if you buy doilies. Just remember that once they've started to be altered and stuff, they're very delicate, and you want to be sure that they're okay, that they don't fall apart on you. So I'm going to just kind of position that where I want it, and I think that looks good, and even if it didn't, it would have to stay there now. And I'm just going to pick it up, and then I'm going to take my scissors and just trim right off the edge. Now again, I could just flip it around to the back and it would add a little bit of extra dimension to the back, but I don't really want to do that because I want to be able to, if someone wants to put a card or something in it, they can. And so that's just a piece that we'll discard. Now, I didn't get enough adhesive here, and I think I'll be okay if I just go ahead and do it this way, because I definitely do not want that falling apart. So isn't that pretty? It's coming together. So the next thing that I did is I took a piece of this Prima bling and I cut it to about the size I wanted, and we're just going to kind of play with it. It can go at any angle. It is a slightly different color than my Witch's Brew, but that's okay. I don't want everything to be the exact same color. So we're just going to put that there, and then we're going to put our flowers on. Now I've already taken my flowers and cut their stems off, and I want to make sure they're nice and flat, and excuse me, we're just going to kind of play with it and see how we want it. The way the bling's going, I think we're going to want these flowers kind of down in this corner like that. I think that's going to be good right about there. So I have my glossy accents here, and I want to be pretty generous with it because I do not want these flowers coming off. I know I've said that over and over again, but when you're doing an altered project or any project, you need to keep in mind how are you giving it to someone? Is it going through the mail? Are you hand delivering it? What's the chances of it getting messed up in transit? Think of all those things when you're putting it down, and then treat your project appropriately. You know, add extra glue or add extra reinforcement, whatever you need to do so that when your recipient gets their project or their product, whatever you're making for them that's so special that you've put all that time in, you want them to get the whole thing, not just parts of it. Okay, so there we go. So that's going to go there, and that will dry very nicely. and I'll come back and check it before I ship it, and if it's not drying, then, or if it's loose at all, I'll put more on it or try a different glue. Scotch Quick Dry I think would also work. Now this is a Nestabilities. This is from the Lattice Rectangle set, and this is the not the smallest one, but the next size up from the smallest. And I thought what would be nice is I left it blank, and I thought I would just put it right there to kind of so that if someone did want to put a card or something in it, they could just write a note or the name or something like that. So I left it blank, but I did distress it. Now this is where the antique linen comes in. I distressed the edges with the tea dye to coordinate with the rest of the envelope, and this paper is just good paper tray ink. It's a scrap that I use that I cut and embossed from the paper tray ink Vintage Cream. And then I took the antique linen and I distressed it further so that it would kind of pull the colors from the card, because it wasn't the perfect color to match. Another hint, it's amazing what you can do with your inks to help bring the colors together a little bit better. And we're just going to put that right there, and that's originally where I had planned to stop, and that's pretty. But in going back through, I decided I wanted to add one more little element to kind of balance it, and that's where this bow comes in. I'm going to make a bow using my bow maker, and I have the pegs set at 2 pegs next to each other. And I have a video tutorial that I've shown where I show you how to use this bow maker, but as you can see, it is a very, very simple process to make a bow using the 3 Girl Jam bow maker. And yes, I used their products before I was on their design team. I really like the 3 Girl Jam. Isn't that a pretty little bow? And because I don't want, this is my favorite ribbon, remember? I don't want to waste any more than I have to. So I tried not to have to cut it off my original piece. And so here is my bow, and that's going to go right here. And I think I'm going to adhere that also with some glossy accents, just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. And just hold that for a minute, and then it will continue to dry when I'm all done. So let's trim off this tail just a little bit. I think I want it just a tad bit shorter than what I had it, because I don't want a huge bow and tail. I just wanted a tiny bow. And there we have an altered envelope. Reality has limits, imaginations is boundless. And then it's got the stamps on the back and the 3 Girl Jam Witch's Brew here. So thanks for stopping by today. Be sure and come back and check for more videos, and have a great day. Bye.